In today's Farm Report, the University of Minnesota Extension's Farm Business Management recently released its information from last year. Jim Sulfer with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office has more.
I'm going to continue my discussion today about the 2014 FinBin information on the dairy cow enterprise, and today I'm going to spend time really talking about the different herd sizes. As you can imagine, those 390 herds vary from well over 1,000 cows to up to 50 cows. And now FinBin sorts them out as less than 50 cows, 50 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 500, and then over 500 cows. And when you look across it, there's a lot more similarities than there are differences. One of the things that kind of has sorted out itself, when you look at average production per cow, the average across all of these 390 herds was a little over 23,000 pounds. And this is milk sold per cow. But one of the things that you've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years that's really happened is the larger herds have really focused on getting milk out of cows because they really specialize on that. These larger herds, that's really their only source of income, whereas our smaller herds probably raise a fair amount of crops and may sell a lot of crops, and so they tend to have their labor tugged in different directions. And so our smallest group averaged about 16,000 pounds of milk, or 16,600 pounds of milk sold per cow, and now the herds over 500 cows average over 26,000 pounds of milk per cow. And part of that is some of the technology they implement, like most of those large herds tend to milk 3 times a day, whereas our smaller herds tend to only milk twice a day. When you look at feed and vet cost per hundredweight, remember this is on a per 100-pound basis, so the more milk they give, that kind of dilutes that. But our feed costs now average about $10 per hundredweight across all of the cows, and that's unbelievable compared to about 10 years ago, so where it might have been maybe $6 or $7 a hundredweight. As you might imagine, looking across all herd sizes, the small herds, it's virtually all family labor, no hired labor, 30 cents a hundredweight, whereas the large farms average about $2.30 per hundredweight of milk sold, and so they really spend a lot of money on labor. And that really is good for our local communities because they hire a lot of people, they keep a lot of people employed, and they spend a lot of money on labor on these large farms. And so that's kind of where we're at from a management standpoint. Otherwise, most of it's really a lot of similarities. You can kind of see feed costs are about the same on a per cow basis. The big differences are, again, the larger herds tend to get a little bit more milk per cow, and from a labor standpoint, they tend to use a lot more hired labor, whereas small herds, it's virtually all family labor. This has been Jim Sulfer with the University of Minnesota Extension in St. Cloud.
Senators Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota and John Boozman of Arkansas introduced a bill last week that would allow banks to finance agricultural exports sent to Cuba, helping to open up Cuban markets to American farmers and ranchers. Under current law, banks are prohibited from providing lines of credit for Cuba-bound exports, so American producers are often forced to make cash payments up front to ensure their products reach Cuba.